Hey there, welcome to the US Power Podcast. This is our fourth podcast. Today I'm going to be introducing one of our new people, Owen Randolph, who's the most newest, latest and greatest member to our team. So again, at US Power, we're the fastest growing sun power dealer in America right now. If you're interested in going solar and you haven't gotten a quote yet, give us a call, 818-650-8010. You can go to sunpowerestimate.com. We're going to put that website up in front of you right now. So if you can put your information in there, if you're in the market for solar, if your electric bill's over $100 a month, it's a no-brainer. Today, we're just going to have some fun, talk about the future, talk about some AI, talk about the West, I think, some Asian talk possibly, some photovoltaic solar talk, and then whatever comes our way. So, Owen, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Eric, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's great to be here. I've been working with US Solar US Power for close to a month now. I moved to Los Angeles in October to work in the hospital supply chain industry, and moved over to working with solar. Felt like it was a little bit better fit. I moved here from Flint, Michigan, so I'm ready to stay in Los Angeles and just start something new. I really like being here, and I think it's a good fit for me.
Yeah, we like having you. So Owen is doing a lot of our AI stuff right now, which is pretty cool. We're diving into the world of AI here at US Power, where we're using powerful new technology to make sure that our operations is working well, sales process is working well, and hopefully getting out to more customers so that we can sign more folks up to go solar. You have a lot of experience in Asia. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I moved to, I was living in Richmond, Virginia after graduating from college for 5 years, and I decided I wanted to do something very different. I was kind of like, I just wasn't in the position where I wanted to be in my mid-20s, so I decided to move to another country. I was originally planning on moving to Taiwan. A friend of mine back in Richmond lived there when he was a kid, and I hadn't seen a whole lot of the world at that point. I really wanted to travel, so I decided to do something kind of radically different. I went over to Thailand with him, to Thailand, not Taiwan, just to check it out. And we spent 3 weeks there traveling around the country, and we went to Cambodia as well.
Have you seen that Leonardo DiCaprio movie where he goes to Thailand?
Yes.
Gets lost.
What is the
like the cove or something? It's like the bay or something. It's like that beautiful little
That's
like that hippie group.
Koh Phi Phi is the name. Yeah, it's an island in southern Thailand.
Nice.
Which we went to.
You went to it. Okay, cool.
Well, we didn't go to the actual site where it was filmed, but we were close. We were in like the closest little island area.
Nice.
It's a really packed touristy area.
Was it beautiful?
It was.
Nice.
It was too crowded though. It's in there's these two large sort of mountains that converge, and then in the space between them, which is the low-lying area, that's where the beaches are.
Nice.
So that's the only place that people can really build accommodations.
Structures, yeah.
Yeah, structures. So that's where they're just packed into this little
enclave.
This little enclave between the two. So anyway, it's a very beautiful place. Very crowded, but certainly worth going to. A lot of sea life.
Nice.
Really shallow beach that goes way out, so you can see like crabs and all kinds of things.
How long were you there for in Thailand?
So we moved. So I moved later in the year. After having that fantastic vacation there, I moved to Bangkok. I was there for 5 years.
Nice.
Teaching English. I did like a what's called a CELTA. It's an English teaching certification.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching for an IELTS test prep center in the heart of the city in an area called Central World, which is it's like the second largest mall in the world or something.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I've
it's
heard of
right
it
in the heart.
Bangkok, yeah.
So it was in an
Huge
office
mall.
building that came out of that.
Nice.
And it was good. It was a good for someone who doesn't have a formal teaching background or like a degree in education or something. It's a very good job.
Yeah, I did like the same. I have similar in China.
Yeah.
Similar in China. A lot of wealthy people have started as English teachers, actually.
Yes.
And one of the most famous is Jack Ma. I don't know if you've ever heard
right.
of Jack
Yeah, the
Ma. He's
founder
one
of Alibaba.
Yeah, he was an English teacher in the beginning. And so nothing wrong with teaching.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's a great way to see the world. Great way
Exactly.
to obviously live in another country.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I chose Bangkok because I wanted. It's a tourist hub.
Sure.
So you've got airlines coming from all over the world to bring tourists in. So it's centrally located in Asia. So
Nice.
it was very easy to get to different parts of East Asia and Indonesia, and went to Nepal as well. And then Europe too. It's just an easy place to live if you want to travel to other parts of the world more directly. And I was able to take a lot of time off as a part of my job. So yeah, it was very flexible, and I got to see a lot of countries in Asia and Europe.
Did
too.
you learn any Thai?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
How do you say hello?
Sawadee Kap.
Sawadee Kap.
Sawadee Kap. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm planning a trip there end of the year.
Okay.
End of the year. Just to go see it.
Have
Yeah.
you been to Thailand before?
No.
Okay.
Never.
What made you want to go to Thailand this time?
My wife's cousins are going, and they invited us.
Uh-huh.
And everyone's talking about Thailand being this awesome place. And
Yeah.
very affordable and great for a vacation. So
Yeah.
time to do it.
It's got a good reputation.
Time to do it.
Yeah, I think Bangkok was the #1 tourist destination by like like per capita, I think, in the
Yes.
world. I don't know if it was a few years ago when I remember when I heard about that statistic.
Is it
2021 maybe before, or no, let's see. Probably before the pandemic.
Is it
2019.
high rises there, or are there a lot of residential like homes? What's the
Yeah,
living
the layout.
Yeah.
Kind of. It has like any big city, it has a large downtown. It's about the same size as New York City or LA
wow.
in terms
Okay.
of population.
so massive? Yeah.
About 8 million people.
Wow.
It's obviously it spreads out like any city.
Yep.
But the central area, the downtown has like your commercial section. Chitlom is one of those areas.
What's it called? Shitlom?
Chitlom.
Chitlom.
Yeah, that's where I worked.
Or Shalom. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So,
So like lots and lots of malls.
gotcha.
Central World's the biggest one, but there's tons of older malls around there.
Nice.
So if you like shopping,
What's the exchange rate?
it is, I'm not sure what it is now, but the Thai baht is their currency.
Okay.
It's about 33 baht per dollar.
Okay.
I don't know what it is now, but it's something like that.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, that's good.
Okay,
Nice.
35. Yeah, so I guess it's a little,
So if you go over there with $1,000, you got $33,000.
well,
Give or
not dollars,
Yeah. I mean,
baht.
relatively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you have to be aware that like it depends on what you want to do.
Of course.
If you're a very rich tourist,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people from like Dubai and Qatar and wealthy people from India. Those
Yes.
are, and obviously Europeans, Russians, Australians. Not as many Americans,
Yeah.
but if you want to spend a lot of money, you can spend a huge amount of money there.
Nice.
But if you want to travel on more of a budget,
Yep.
there's like tons of backpackers there, of course.
Yep. Hostels.
You can stay in hostels.
Yep.
That's where I stayed when I was a
Yep.
tourist
I
there.
did a lot of that too.
Yeah, which is fine. And you can travel on a shoestring there. The public transportation's okay.
High speed. No.
No, not yet.
Is there a subway?
No, so there's what's called the BTS, which
Okay.
is the above ground. It's an elevated train system.
Like Chicago. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's relatively new. And then
Okay.
the MRT is the subway.
Okay. That's underground.
Which I think is a little older, and they're separate systems. They don't actually.
Interesting.
You don't have like here where
You got to jump off one and then
Yeah.
get on the other.
and there's nodes where you can move from the BTS to the MRT.
Oh,
which is
cool.
a little
Yeah.
inconvenient.
That's cool.
The thing I don't like about it is that it's very, very heavily commercialized. It's a private
Oh, wow.
system. So there's like
Oh, wow.
there's like TVs on the.
It's like the utilities right?
Yeah, yeah.
When it's privately owned, they're going to continue to drive the price up and up and up.
Well, yeah, there's that, but you're a captive audience.
Is there any competition or no? It's
No.
just those two.
No,
and they're both privately owned.
Yeah, I don't know
Dang.
if they're owned by the same company.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But still, it's a terrible deal. What's better than nothing?
If you have to take, like, you don't want to take the buses, really.
Yeah.
That's an adventure.
Yeah.
In and of itself.
Right.
They're very old buses. That's actually kind of a fun thing to do if you're a tourist. Just take the bus around. It's a different experience.
Interesting.
They're like from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, that's what happened here, and not to change, but this is an interesting topic. LA used to have a very state-of-the-art subway system back in, I believe, the 40s and 50s, and they shut it down because the car companies, the truck companies, and the tire companies teamed up, passed a law to like end it. Right? They lobbied to end underground subways. I think they went behind like the idea of like being a seismic zone or something. And now LA is known for some of the worst traffic in the world, but it was all to increase car and tire sales, and they won. So they won that war, and like, LA suffers because of that today.
Yeah, streetcars, I think. Yeah, electric streetcars were the first. I don't know if
electric streetcar.
Was it electric streetcars?
I don't know. I know that was a big thing up in San Francisco, but I know that LA did have a growing subway system that got shut down, and I know the reason was because private interests, who were in the automotive industry. And then the tire companies, right, to oil and automotives, lots of oil and tires, teamed up, lobbied, won, and then shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, super strong car industry.
Yeah, and now obviously we're suffering the now. Good thing is with self-driving cars coming, I think that's going to fix a lot of the traffic jams that we have. I'm very excited for that. But
there's an interesting. So I think they have. Or they had until very recently, they had started like self-driving cars in San Francisco.
Yes.
I think that got like squashed a little bit recently because of some safety.
Yep. Yeah, it makes sense. It's going to be a slow rollout.
Yeah.
It's coming though.
Right, of course.
It's definitely coming.
Yeah. And so Elon Musk has talked about having...
Yep. Our friend Elon.
Yeah, your self-driving, your car, your Tesla or whatever, drive you to work and then operate as a robo-taxi while you're at work.
Oh, yeah.
And then come pick you up.
Why not?
I mean,
why not have your car making money for you?
Yeah.
That's actually something that is coming in our industry, in the solar industry, which is your electric cars now, many of them are bidirectional. So that means that the car will back up the home, right? So, I have a 2022 Lucid, which has a 112 kilowatt hour battery. That's a massive battery. That battery will back up your home with pool and HVAC going for almost 2 weeks.
2 weeks, really?
2 weeks of home backup.
Like
right?
a normal,
without the grid.
Normal amount of usage.
Exactly. You don't want to blast your AC. Right. I would turn your pool filtration off throughout that, those 2 weeks, those 10 days, 10 to 14 days. But what is very disruptive that's happening is virtual grids, which we talk about in our power purchase agreements, where customers can opt into being part of a decentralized grid. So if you're in a monopoly like Edison and they passed NEM 3 where you need a battery to store your backup power for you so that when you use power in the evening, you're using off the battery instead of the grid. Many times you're not using all of that battery. And during the summertime, there's programs that are launching throughout the state of California where you can opt your battery into what's called a virtual grid. So the grid operator will pull energy off your battery and you get paid at a higher rate than you typically would because they don't have to turn on a peaker plant or a natural gas facility that sits up in the desert somewhere. And it's going to be the same with your cars too. And this is what we call V2 grid, vehicle to grid technology, because all cars are going electric. It's inevitable. Unless you're living up in the mountains somewhere and you don't have access to electricity. But even then, off-grid solar is becoming more and more popular. So you will have access to electricity and you can get an electric car even off-grid. But long story short, those batteries, if you're not, like for instance, my vehicle goes 470 miles on one charge.
Really?
470. So I can drive from LA to San Francisco on one charge.
Is that the longest distance of any
There's one more that has longer range, which is this. It's a Lucid as well. It's just not the performance vehicle, and that can do 500 and something.
Wow.
So it's right there.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I believe it's the longest range vehicle right now, and I needed that because I'm in the car all day long.
Right.
But bottom line is, many folks aren't going to need to use all of that energy, right? So they're going to be driving 20 to 50 miles per day, and so they can use their battery in their car to opt into these programs as well. So the battery in the car becomes like a bank for them. It's storing energy, and then it's offloading energy at peak demand hours or at times when the grid needs power because there's rolling blackouts and brownouts, and customers can actually get the benefit of that. Just with an electric car. So that's technology that's hitting the market right now. I know Tesla's behind on that because of their Powerwall. They invested a lot of money in their home battery solution, so they haven't made their cars bidirectional yet. But a lot of the other vehicles like Ford, Lucid, Nissan, Hyundai have all made their vehicles, or at least their latest, bidirectional. I know Mercedes is planning to make their vehicles bidirectional.
Yeah.
But very disruptive.
Extending the decentralized energy ability of customers.
Yes, but more importantly, backing up homes. More importantly, why would you not buy a car that could back your home up as a generator at the same time? I mean, that's especially in the Midwest. If you're living in a place where I'm from, Cleveland, Ohio, or Chicago, New York State. We get a lot of blackouts all the time because we got heavy weather. We get rainstorms, we get blizzards, electric lines go down. And, a lot of us are transitioning to electric heat because gas is going to continue to go up. So by having a bidirectional vehicle, an electric car that is a generator, it's a no-brainer. I'm safe. My home's going to have light. I'm going to have heat. That's a big disruptive technology. So I know there's a big tangent away from Bangkok, but kind of goes in with the subways, LA and everything that's happening here.
You have a question about that.
So
how long does it take just using solar power
to charge your car?
To charge a car like yours, yeah.
Yeah, so on a level 2 car charger, from 0 to 400, you're probably looking at 12 to 14 hours. But that's from 0 to 470s.
On a completely sunny day.
Well, no, not on just level 2 car charging. Right, because you don't have to have solar to charge your car. You could charge it off the grid.
Oh, what I meant was just
with solar.
Yeah, sorry.
Just on your solar.
To be clear, just using solar panels. Yeah.
Just using your solar. So it's the same time frame. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for 0 to 2. Now that doesn't mean that because the level 2 car charger can only charge at a certain amperage, so about 30 amps on the high end. So your solar during the day, if you're a solar customer and you have an average to an above average system, it's still going to take you between, let's say you plug in right when the sun comes up, you're going to be mostly charged by end of day, but all of the power from your solar isn't going to the electric vehicle. That's just one load on your main service panel. Your solar is still going to be powering your lights. It's going to be powering your AC. It's going to be powering other loads on at your home. Yeah, but the level 2 chargers, and again we have one coming right now, which is called Portal. It's a level 2 car charger. It's its own company. We actually just have our first few units out in the office here. They will charge your average electric car between 8 to 10 hours. Car like mine, which is a little more of a little larger battery than your average electric vehicle, that's going to take 12 to 14 hours, I would say, to charge it full. Yeah.
And there's I believe I don't know if it's a mandate, I don't know the right word, but California has some goal of reaching X amount of
it's renewable. So by 2030, we're supposed to be, and Gavin Newsom just passed this law, I think 2 years ago, where we're going to be at 50% renewable. And that's for the grid, but for for electric vehicles, I believe it's by 2030 as well. 100%. Like 2030 is the last year that petroleum cars can be sold in California.
Really? In California?
In California.
So sold in California.
So we have another 6 years left.
Yeah, that's not very.
Yeah, it might be
time.
235 actually.
Yeah.
So I think it's 230 or 235 is the cutoff for petroleum vehicles, new vehicles being sold. Doesn't mean if you have a gas car right now, like I own a gas car still, just in case. But you can still sell your used cars. It's just no new cars can be sold in California.
That's interesting to think about how.
So
if you have a gas car now.
Yes.
Let's say it's 2030 when they want to ban sales of new
gas cars.
There's going to be probably more of a market for gas cars.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, don't you
look that up real quick?
Sorry. I mean used gas cars.
Yeah.
If you can't buy a new one here, you would have to buy a used one from someone who already has one.
Right. Yeah.
So
it actually might drive up the resale value for a gas car.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the economics. And also, go ahead.
I was just going to say gas cars, in my opinion, aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Just because there are, we're not early adopters right now with solar and electric cars. So solar, you're definitely not an early adopter. Like solar, we're past that. It's now mainstream. Electric vehicles is just becoming, just passing early adoption, and it's about to become mainstream.
Yeah.
So I would say solar is still not electric vehicles aren't mainstream. But gas cars are, it's just, there's places that, let's say if you're living in Montana or you're living in Nebraska or you're in certain areas that don't have robust grids, great electrical infrastructure because there's not a, big population, gas is going to be your best option right now.
Yeah.
That said, off-grid electricity is coming very quickly because of solar and the advent of very good battery technology. Battery technology is explosive, to say the least. Like when I first started working at Tesla, about 12 years ago or so, I remember a Model S did about 150 miles per charge. 150, 160.
That's come a long way.
Yeah, they're at 400 plus now.
Yeah.
So that's not quite, it's like a 3X in 10, 12 years. So battery technology is increasing very quickly. Solar technology is not.
And then, tell me about the renewable grid energy. Mm-hmm. We don't see around here. I mean, you see solar panels on roofs, but
right.
There are no, as far as I know, there are no solar, solar farms, I guess.
Yeah.
Around here, I haven't seen any windmills except unless you go outside of the valley.
So we'll throw this up on the screen because it is interesting to look at. So if you zoom, here's our office. We'll show you a picture of our office right here. If you go north up to Lancaster, California City, which is just up that direction.
Yeah, desert.
There's a big desert, and you're going to see it's full of solar fields right now and windmills.
Okay.
And windmills. And that's because here in California, we have what's called climate mandates, where by 2030, all utilities have to be at 60% of all of their energy coming from renewable energy. And that's solar, wind, and geothermal. So 60% by 2030. By 2045, and this is Newsom's new law as of 2 years ago, 100%. So by 2045, all grids in California have to produce 100% of their energy from renewable energy, right? So, and that's why every time when you go solar, one of the reasons you're getting grandfathered into net energy metering, whether it be full and you're in DWP, Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale, one of the municipality-owned utilities, or you're in a utility like Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, or PG&E, which is most of the state of California, you get NEM 3. You're still in a program where the utility gives you something for your surplus energy. So in Edison, it's not the fair market value, which is around 40 cents. It's 8 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's a reduced rate. That's why you have a battery to store most of your surplus energy. But they do still incentivize pay you essentially for your credits because the more folks that go solar, the faster they hit the climate mandate and lessen their fines from the state of California. So, those are the milestones that we're on right now.
What do you mean by fines? What are those fines?
So if a utility does not hit that mandate, right? So like DWP, for instance, is just about to lose net energy metering. So if you're an LA DWP, if you're here in LA, this is the biggest year to go solar. Like this is your last year to get grandfathered into net energy meter. They're already talking about it in the city council. Smaller utilities like DWP, Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Water and Power, Azusa Water and Power, they're always going to follow the big boys, being Southern California Edison, PG&E. Those are the two largest utilities in America. They're the Rockefellers of the energy business. They are the big boys. And now that they've changed their law and they've passed it through the CPUC, which is the California Public Utility Commission, the smaller utilities that are owned by the municipalities, DWP, Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, Azusa, Anaheim, they are also going to change the law. So even though they're not investor-owned utilities for profit, right? I can't buy stock in LA DWP and get a dividend like I can in Edison. They still are profit hungry, right? DWP is still the most profitable organization for the city of LA. And then it's the airport after that, right? Have you ever seen Chinatown with Jack Nicholson?
No.
It's a good movie.
Okay.
I recommend watching it.
Yeah.
Daniel, have you seen it? No, it's a great movie, film noir. Yeah, it's a really good movie. Actually, one of our new customers was as a producer on the film. But it's all about how DWP was founded, right? And it's about Mulholland. You guys have been up on Mulholland Drive yet? So Mulholland is the guy who brought water into LA, right? And he brought it from the Central Valley, and he created all the infrastructure to bring all this water to LA, because LA is kind of a desert, right? We're by an ocean, but we don't have a great watershed, right? A massive amount of water does not flow naturally to LA. There is a LA River, but this was a thriving destination, mainly due to the entertainment industry back in the old days, 100 years ago. It had great weather, hence film production companies wanted to come out here and shoot because they could shoot most of the year, which kicked off the city. But Mulholland was the guy partnered with the mob, believe it or not, where a lot of the money came from. Where that they built the infrastructure up, and doing that, they also developed the infrastructure for the electric grid here in LA. And so historically, DWP has been a bit mobby, in the early days, like 12 years ago, not early days, but basically when I was first out here, they were miscrediting customers nonstop. So when customers produce solar, they would just pay them something different and get away with it. And we had a big lawsuit against them, not SunPower, not US Power. It was a class action, the people of LA against DWP.
When was that?
About 12 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Right when I got out here. Yeah. It was relatively recent.
Yeah.
And that went on for a few years, and they lost big time. And the CEO resigned, and it was just a big deal because they were called out for miscrediting customers. And something that we do on our solar systems, we have what's called a PV6, right? So that's a monitoring system. It logs, it's interconnected with your Wi-Fi, and each panel's production is tracked in real time. But more importantly, we can track the kilowatts in and out of the home. So it's essentially a smart meter, right? And that gives you the ability to cross-validate your credits with the utility, right? Because your meter on the side of your home is your cash register, right? So, and that cash register is controlled by a central authority, and you can't even open it, right? There's a lock on it from the utility. So after this, and this DWP wasn't the only one. Utilities across the country have done this, but across the country now, we add this PV6, not just so that you as a customer can monitor your production to make sure that the system is producing under warranty when you go solar, but also you can cross-validate your consumption off the grid to make sure that you're getting credited accurately for the surplus credits that you generate and feed back to the grid, which is a big deal.
Super valuable.
Yeah, super valuable.
Yeah.
I want to jump back into Thailand.
Sure.
What was the biggest thing? Because there's a few major things that I learned when I came back from China. So I had some mind opening things after living in a foreign country that's so much different from America. I came back and I was like, enlightened in a way.
Yeah, things you bring back from the country.
Perspective.
Yeah,
What was some of the biggest perspective that you got from your experience, from your time spent in Thailand?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because you can't not bring something back after living somewhere for 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the reasons, I'll get to that in just a sec, but one of the reasons I moved there was because I wanted to see I wanted to live in a very different culture. And I was immersed in that, of course, and I certainly did have culture shock, even though I didn't really realize it when I was experiencing it. I was kind of like expecting it, but I wasn't thinking about it while it was happening. Thai people are the culture is different in such that people tend to be, as with most East Asian cultures, I think they tend to it's a face culture, first of all, just like China.
Yeah.
So presenting an outward appearance that is, I think, in some ways conforming to what's expected of you, rather than being like
yourself.
Yeah. What's the phrase?
Genuine?
No. Well, the idiom, like dancing to the beat of your own drum or something. So I'm not saying it's completely conformist, but there's a lot of things that you don't say. The taboos, I guess, are different in certain ways. Like, for example, you cannot openly talk negatively about the royal family or the king there. That's a big taboo.
Is there a royal family?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So
there's a king of Thailand.
Yes. And it's
interesting.
You'll see it everywhere.
Oh, you see his face?
Yes, everywhere.
In like people's homes?
In people's businesses, if they are strong, if they support the king, or if they want people to think that they do.
Okay. Interesting. Wow.
In front of every big office building, you'll see a big
picture,
10-foot tall or higher, bigger portrait of the king.
Propaganda.
Yes, it is. It is.
Like in China, you always see pictures of Mao Zedong.
Yeah, on the currency.
On the currency, but also in people's homes, because if they're CPUC, the Communist Party of China, CPOC, or CCP.
Yeah.
CPUC is California Public Utility Commission, which is a terrible organization. And I'm not saying I love China, but it does say Communist Party of China sounds pretty similar.
Yeah.
But you see the same thing. It's interesting.
Yeah, and it is.
But not as much actually. China's now tamed it down. You don't when I was first there. I was seeing it, but then it is a little. Maybe it's even more in Thailand.
Tool. I mean, there's studies that have shown that if you in societies where there are portraits of the supreme leader everywhere, like North Korea,
right?
People tend to think less critically. They're more. It just mentally changes the way that they. Think about things.
Right.
Anyway, I'm sure that's influenced Thai culture in some ways. Their school systems are very, they're very obedient oriented, and there's a lot of rote teaching rather than critical thinking. I mean, this
sounds like China.
This is a generalization.
Yeah. No, this sounds
the
like
public school system is like that.
Yes.
So that does change the mentality of the people who live there. There are definitely a lot of Thai people who think critically and do not want to conform to that, but it's very hard to openly break the mold. There are a lot of
is there freedom of speech over there?
There is, to the extent that they have lèse-majesté laws, so you can't talk negatively about
the government.
Well, you can about the government, but you can't about the royal family.
Interesting.
I think is a huge problem.
Well, that's
I mean,
the royal family is the government, right?
Well, not really.
No?
I think that they
separated
have a very strong influence over what the government and what government comes in and does. They are the very top.
Yes.
And they I think they claim to not be part of the government or influence the government, but I think they do.
Interesting.
I think that's kind of an open secret.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Anyway,
Very interesting.
I'm not a huge expert on that, so I won't say too much about that. But I think that, I guess, so this is coming back full circle to your question. Having freedom of speech in the U.S., I think, is extremely important.
Yep.
And yes, there are things that are not good to say. Of
course,
everybody knows that. But I think that you should legally be able to say anything that
whatever you want.
Yeah. As long as you're not yelling fire in a crowded theater,
right,
and endangering people. Yeah, freedom of speech is super important, and it's a great way to maintain our sense of mental independence, I guess, and critical thinking about
it's empowering.
Why
it's empowering.
Why you think certain things are the way they are and should be a certain way.
Yeah.
We've got lots of political headbutting, of course, and it's gotten worse in the last since the 90s, I guess. But that's a really important thing.
Sure.
And if you've got one authority who just says this is how we have to do things, this is how we will do things, and you can't challenge that at all, it may lead to a more sort of orderly society, but in some ways outwardly, but it's not the way to foster a good sense of well-being in your own in your own life.
Exactly. And innovation, I think, too.
Absolutely, yes.
Innovation, because that was one of the things I learned in China, which was they're innovative in that it's the youth are. So that's the funny thing about and I love China. You don't mind the Chinese government that much either. The thing that, the younger people of our generation, they're way more like us and free thinking and social media. And they actually are pushing back against the government a lot to liberalize. So I don't think there's going to be any massive revolution in China. But I do think as our generation grows up out there, and they have money now too.
Yeah.
So the middle class is very powerful in China. And the middle class, the bourgeoisie, as we say, they're the ones who really, once a country gets wealthy with a middle class, that's when you start getting a lot more freedoms.
Yeah.
Because the middle class is, at the end of the day, they're not the royalty. They're not the elite. They're people, like you and me who just started, living in a regular world and have been working really hard, and they now have money and they want to do something with it. Right. But they are really pushing for a liberal, liberal in meaning that not so conservative into in China, you couldn't say Winnie the Pooh. You because about Xi Jinping because and I was like, dude, if I was Xi Jinping, I'd love to be compared to Winnie the Pooh. That was my favorite cartoon growing up. He's so cool. Who wouldn't want to be like Pooh? He's the most chillest, most friendly, most lovable, animal in the world.
Yeah.
Right. Who wouldn't any leader, right-minded leader would be like, oh yeah, dude, compare me to Winnie the Pooh. At least that's how I would feel. But yeah, that's interesting. So so that sounds very similar in that capacity.
Yeah, and speaking of protests, there was a new king that came into power, the son of the old one, who was revered. The last one, Bhumibol is his name, Rama IX. He was the king for over 50 years. Really, very beloved. Yeah.
50 years he ruled.
Wow. See pictures of him. Yeah, crazy. Very old when he
ruled for 50 years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he had a great reputation. The new king does not have that. He's got there's a lot of controversy.
Is it his son?
Yeah, it's his son.
Interesting.
Very different
style.
Very different. Well, I don't know about style. I don't know so much about that, but he's just not looked on with nearly as much respect as the old one. But at the same time, you still have all this mentality around the king is the most important part of Thai culture and the country and everything. But like you said, with younger generations, a lot of them they just don't feel that way.
Right.
Because he wasn't, and also the influence from countries like the United States and the West, they see,
our entertainment.
Our entertainment. Yeah, there's so much cultural influence. There's so much more money here.
Right. They want that
opportunity. Yeah, they want that, and they just are shifting there's a lot of tension between like that generation. It's not just that generation, but that mentality, people with that mentality, and like the conservative, like old school royal, they're called royalists, I believe, who are just like, and
the royalists. That's so funny.
Lots of protests.
Yeah.
When I was there, the last year I was there in 2021, lots and lots of protests.
Interesting. Wow.
And there was a new government. They tried to elect, so I think last year, a new prime minister who was a young guy. He was a few years older than us. I don't remember his name, but he was in the Future Forward Party, which is like a progressive.
I like the name of it, Future Forward Party.
Yeah, and like he got a great majority. It was like 70% of the vote or something. And the government that was in power wouldn't let him become the president.
Wow.
No, he was highly popular.
But did he win the election?
Yes. And
they still wanted to let him?
Yeah.
Well, then that's not a democracy.
No, it's not. It's not. The military rules the
government. Oh, wow. Okay. So
yeah, I should have said that earlier.
Yeah. Wow. That's so So wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. And so.
Wow. What a place.
Someone else is the president now.
I'm gonna have to keep my head down when I'm over there, I guess.
Well, just don't. I mean.
How are they? Like, did they treat you really well as a foreigner in Thailand? Because like in China, the Chinese treat you royally.
Yeah.
Just to speak, they very respectful. You're coming from another country. They want to treat you well. They want to take care of you.
Yeah.
Was it very similar?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And that's good.
They do. I mean, there's a few things with immigration, like,
right.
So that's an interesting question because outwardly, yes, they do treat you very well. And I think a lot of them do mean very well. But at the same time, there's it is a sort of, culturally isolated country. They want to keep their Thainess.
I like that. Their Thainess.
They want to keep that. They don't want too much outside influence to like infiltrate their culture.
Yeah, and lose their culture.
Right. So they
interesting.
They tend to, I think, in some ways view foreigners as I don't know if it's entirely less like a lower social class, but it is definitely an outside social class.
Yeah, no, that's what they do in China. They call us Wai Guoren. Wai Guoren. Wai means out. Guo means country. Ren means person. Wai Guoren. And then or Lao Wai, which means old outsider. That's a more respectful way to say it.
Yeah.
But they are. Yeah, it's almost like they stereotype you. Yeah. Because you're a foreigner.
In Thailand, it's farang, which means foreigner.
Oh, farang.
It's probably just a corruption of the word foreign.
Interesting. Farang.
Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah.
But then the ladies like you always, of course, right?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I'm married, but
to a Thai woman though.
Yes.
Right.
To a Thai woman.
There you go.
Who I met shortly after I moved there.
Cool.
I knew her we were together for about 4.5 years. And
nice.
We got married right before.
Awesome.
I left. And now she's here.
Cool.
And she's enjoying life here.
Love it.
But it's funny because
your kids are going to be good looking.
Thank you.
Seriously, in China they call it a huan shuar. Huan means mix. Shuar is like blood. Huan shuan. In Beijing you roll the R. Huan shuar. But it's like a coveted. Like many of the Chinese women, again, if Chinese guys may not like this, but it's true. They like the idea of mating with a foreigner. I actually wanted to start a business in China where I sold foreign semen to wealthy Chinese women. Brilliant. And that got shut down pretty quick. The Chinese government wasn't going to have anything to do with that. But because the most millionaires in the world are coming out of China and they're female millionaires, right? And they're like, I don't need the guy. I'm just going to have the baby I want.
Yeah.
But it's a coveted because you're taking really the best of both gene pools, and it ends up being a very beautiful child, regardless of if it's Asian, black, Asian, white, Asian, whatever. It's that side of the world mixes well with foreign blood.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I was
in China they covet it. It's actually something that's very special.
My wife says she still says farang here to refer to Americans. I think it's particularly used with like white people. But I'm like, honey, you're in America. You're the foreigner.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so funny because sometimes I've run into Chinese on like in the streets or like when I go to New York. They're China like the Chinese own like 60% of New York at this point. All of Brooklyn is owned by China now.
Uh-huh.
Chinese that have come and they've dumped their money into the real estate industry here to become an American. And so I'll be on the subway and they're speaking and they'll say like, and then I'll talk to them in China. I said, 现在你是外国人，这是我们的国家. I'll tell them this is our country, right? And they're like, what? And they go, are you in the CIA?
Yeah.
And I say, no. I'm not CIA. I'm just a regular Joe. I just speak your language, but because they still feel, and they forget that. And then I have fun with them and I remind them, you're an American too.
Yeah.
In America,
right,
we're all from different places.
Yeah.
We're all foreigners here. Everybody came from somewhere else. Everybody came from somewhere else. So they, that's a weird concept for them where they still hold, like in China, it's called 中国. 中国. 中 means center. 国. Countries, 中国,
the middle kingdom,
the middle kingdom,
right.
the central country. Everything else is revolving around us.
Yeah, that's their
kind of a cultural
part of their. Like,
maybe Thailand kind of feels the same.
Yeah, I think middle kingdom wasn't that originally meant as like heaven is up here, the earth is down here, and then the middle kingdom's kind of like between heaven and.
I think so. As
like the best.
Yes. Well, and I know that. Yeah, and I and we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna hear more about Owen's adventures, the adventures of Owen, in another episode. But I just watched the new Napoleon movie with Joaquin Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Really good.
Okay.
Really good.
Yeah.
Napoleon this guy played the role great.
Yeah.
But they were all against the royalists. And that's how Napoleon came into power was, the royal family had just fallen. They beheaded, what's her name? The queen. Yeah. Remember, let them eat cake. Mm-hmm. And so Napoleon was this like ambitious gunner, right? He was very good with cannons and, but they even called it the mandate of heaven, and when he came into power, he became the emperor finally of France. He talked, as if through church, almost through religion, that God had given him this role to rule the country. And I know in China, and I'm assuming similar to the royal family in Thailand, that it's what they call the mandate of heaven, where heaven has mandated you this authority.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
In those pictures of like the king, you see sometimes they're decorated, they're very ornamental, like the frame and stuff. And sometimes they have these little wispy clouds like right underneath either bottom corner.
Yes.
So it's as if like the king is like in heaven.
In heaven.
Like literally, yeah. So
love it.
There's that.
So you guys can see that we're a well-rounded company. We have people from all over the world working here. Well, he's an American, obviously, Owen. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Virginia.
Okay, so he's an American. He's from. Oh, that's right. You're from Williamsburg. Yeah, we were laughing about this.
Beginning of the country.
Oh, yeah. He's like as American as they come. Like he's like, yeah. I was telling him a story about. When I was a kid, I went to Williamsburg.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and my dad had an experience where like he had a dream we were sitting in one of the old colonial, and he had the dream of being in the colonial times. But it was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite memories as a kid was being in that colonial town for a few days, just like being lost in it. Yeah.
It's a great place
Super
to grow
cool.
up too, because it's a town, obviously. Yeah. But it's got the historic area that's really interesting to explore as a kid. So I would like ride my bike around there and
beautiful.
Lots of fun. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thanks guys for joining us on our 4th episode. Again, if you're in the market for solar, I know we talk about a lot on this, and next time we'll get into some more AI stuff because that's really what Owen is. Owen's doing operations here at the company, but he's also a very smart computer scientist. And so we are doing some innovative AI here now in the solar industry to make solar as easy of a process to do for you as customers. Again, if you're in the market and your electric bill is high and you're sick of paying a monopoly that doesn't care about you, call us 818-650-8010. You can go to uspower.us or you can go to sunpowerestimate.com. Takes 2 minutes. Put your information in. We'll reach out to you with a quote within 2 business days. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks.